What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnic Lab, episode 132. This is the Going Deep series continued. That's right. We are going to one of the oldest and one of the first three heroes we actually went through on the show, Diva, this week. And we're going to be revisiting her after a plethora of reworks over the last 2 years. This is a very outdated guide, and we're excited to bring this to you with new defense matrix and micro missiles alike. We have special guest, TossarN. I believe I'm saying that right. Maybe just Tossar, right? Probably just saying it super weird. But welcome to the show.
Thank you. And
yeah, go
it's
ahead.
pronounced TossarN.
TossarN.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I didn't know with the capital N if I should pronounce it like at the same or like different, but yeah. My name's Rob. I'm coming all the way in from Yamaguchi, Japan, South Side. It's nice and chilly though. I'll tell you what, we actually blew a breaker today trying to heat the house. And joining me as always, we have Andres Gomez all the way down in southern Georgia. What's up?
What is up? Yeah, it's been super rainy and cold over here too. My voice is kind of fading away, so I apologize in advance.
I got the dual hand warmers, so I'm ready for esports, folks. This week we're going to be talking all about Diva. Like I said before, TossarN is a Grandmaster player. Previous contenders, I guess you could say, kind of like a competition team. You were competing to get into a contender spot with the team at one point. And I also found him through a coaching feature through Fiverr that he did with Jane. And Jane did a little mini prank on it, but actually ended up getting some good coaching session out of it on his YouTube page. Let's just jump right into it. Let's get to know our guest, TossarN. Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your stream, some of your background, maybe like what you like to play, and also what you like to coach. And then kind of you can even tell a little bit of the Jane story for those that don't know about it.
Okay, so let's see. Background. Well, I'm from Sweden, a very cold country. Or actually not, because I live in the south of Sweden. It's basically just rain. I started gaming when I was a very young kid, 6 years old. And I picked up Overwatch the moment I saw it it announced on BlizzCon. Tried to get into the beta, finally got my beta, and played it ever since. And of course, the first few seasons were a bit rough for me. I didn't quite understand the game myself. Then a very good friend of me, ML7, actually helped me out.
Also a great Overwatch player, right?
What?
A great Overwatch player. I've heard of him before.
Yes.
Yeah, ML7's insane.
He's an amazing Ana player. Played for Team Romania. But yeah, he actually coached me. And believe it or not, the season after that, I was top 500.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Straight out of the gates, huh?
Exactly. So a lot of people usually look at my seasons like, what the hell happened between season 3 and season 4? And I'm like, I understood the game.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So basically, I got into playing with teams, and I pushed kind of hard. But competitive Overwatch it's not just like a child's play. Like, you really need to dedicate time. At least that's what I thought back then. Like, we scrimmed maybe 5 times a week, 3 hours per scrim. And it was kind of exhausting over the time.
Mm-hmm.
And after Open Division, then we kind of fell apart. But we might have a secret project going on. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, very cool. Hey, let me ask you a little bit about the gaming culture over in Sweden. Because I know it's pretty big over there. And you guys also bring up a lot of really good players. How are stuff over there with gaming?
If you walk on the streets or just overall, basically, you won't see much about it. We have about one esports bar here in Gothenburg.
Hmm.
That's about it. But I mean, online, Sweden has quite a big presence. Like
Yeah.
people sometimes call us mini Korea. Uh,
More
Yeah,
we
or
you're like
less.
like,
that, like the South Korea
yeah,
of Europe, basically.
exactly. Um, we, I mean, basically all the games, we've had a lot of stars, so to say, like ranging from Super Smash Brothers, Dota, League of
Mm.
Legends, Overwatch, Counter Strike. I think Sweden has a presence in every game, even StarCraft 2
Hmm.
back during the Naniva days. Um,
Right.
but yeah, overall, there isn't like if you walk on the streets or anything, you won't really notice. We're just any other Scandinavian country.
Interesting, interesting. All right, very cool.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about how you like transitioned into coaching and kind of what happened with maybe like pursuing a pro career? I know you touched a little bit on this one in your video with Jane.
Um, like the coaching happened even before. While I was playing, I also took it upon myself to help a friend's diamond team, and
Mm,
I thought it was really fun because gradually I saw them improve, and I was like, if I can help someone improve at the game, like why not? It will. If more and more people start improving, it will both reduce toxicity and they might see the game more fun if they're doing well. Um, and overall, I've always been one of those persons that I like helping out people. Like when I was a few years ago, I was a football coach for younger kids, and overall, I usually take it upon myself to be a project leader or anything. So I thought, hey, maybe I should become a coach. And well, I got lucky. I got really lucky when Kenzo found me for some reason.
mhm.
That's very cool.
So
It's a great attitude to have too. Especially Overwatch is one of those games that can get really frustrating at times, but a lot of that frustration can sometimes come from a lack of understanding, right? No, not knowing that you can take a different approach or how you should react to certain things. And once you start doing those things, the frustrating parts can maybe not be frustrating, but an advantage to you.
one more time. I'm sorry.
I was basically saying that the really frustrating things in Overwatch sometimes are frustrating because you don't understand them very well, and once you understand how to deal with those problems, the game gets much easier and much more of a game.
Yeah, exactly. And that is my main thing. I always tell everyone um, that I coach, see it as a game, try to have fun. Because if you force yourself to play, you're not gonna have fun, and you're gonna play worse than if you would be having fun. That's
Mm,
I always bring that up because that's kind of what happened to me after the Open Division, where I had been crazily playing the game.
right.
And the DK system, like I kind of felt forced to play, and I was just getting annoyed, and I didn't have fun. So basically, that's when I took my break. Because if you
Gotcha.
feel forced to play a game, then you shouldn't be playing.
Right. So, let's finish up talking here about just you with just like what did you like to play at that time, or what do you particularly like to coach? Maybe it could be just a holistic team or a role or specific heroes. Anything is fine.
Um, I myself am an off support player. I play Lucio, Zenyatta. Basically, I play anyone, but those are my two strongest heroes. So I prefer strongly to coach an off support, but I am also a very flexible player. I play almost the entire roster. Um, so any hero works basically. I prefer single people because I can put more time and depth into them. But I also enjoy coaching teams.
Okay, cool. So let's just get right into a couple quick announcements, and then we're gonna go right super deep into all of this Diva stuff because we got a lot of things, and technically Diva's got two parts of her kit because she's in and out of that suit. So first and foremost, today, as we're recording, December the 28th, we are having game night tonight. This is the morning in the NA region, but basically anytime in the afternoon around 4 to 6, I kind of put a hard time on Twitter. just because people always ask and I just set something. But it's pretty much all night. You can join EU, NA, Asia. Anyone's welcome. We will be playing on the NA servers to start, and as more people grow and lobbies grow, we can even split into different servers depending on who's hosting, especially if we get enough Asia people or people willing to play in Asia. I would love to play on 40 MS, so please let me know. We can do that in one of the lobbies. That's going to do it for the game night announcement. It will be until people quit or pass out, because this is holidays and this is generally one of the biggest game nights, so I'm preparing for a lot, and I will try to be streaming this time around. Additionally, our sponsor is going to be Top Score Solutions. Every time we have him coming here, he's always talking about this website. This is Ben, or I Need Peeling on Discord. He talks about basically anything to do with free business consultations or esports development type of things. If you esports and Overwatch especially, or even just like any kind of game, find topscoresolutions.com or Topscore Esports on Twitter, or join his Discord community and talk with him and his peers. Andres and I are working on something with him to update a little bit more of the info for you. We also have Omnic Meta, which has a brand new feature. I'm going to let Andres break down real quick, because we were helping him in the backlog develop this a little bit.
Yeah. I'm really happy about this one because it was a suggestion that we brought up to him, and he liked it so much that I think he spent like the entire weekend working on it, and now it's live. It's really cool. If you go to Omnic Meta, now you can see all of your stats from heroes and all the charts that you've always been able to see, but now they're very easy to share, and you can share almost all of them individually or all of them if you want at the same time. But for example, I've been doing great on Ash lately, and I kind of wanted to brag a little bit about that. So I just went to Twitter, posted my Ash stats. It gives you a glance, a comparison of how you're doing against other people in your rank in key statistics like eliminations or damage done, or Bob kills, for example. And it compares
The most important stat.
Yeah, the most important, absolutely. It just compares you against other players in Diamond. It tells you, hey, you compared to other people in Diamond are in the 80th percentile in this stat, and just shows you really quick. It's really cool. Definitely encourage you to check it out. Very easy to share, and now you can brag to anyone at all times.
Absolutely. And last up here, we have a quick little update on our Humble Bundle monthly affiliate link. If you want to find anything to do with cool stuff on Humble Bundle, you can click our affiliate link by typing !humble in our Discord or on our Twitch feed. And we still have the Ash Scope Sensitivity Calculator link in the show notes for the last time. But that's going to do it for announcements, folks. If you want to learn more about D.Va, now's the time. Let's get into the mech suits and go. We got some rocket boosters for you. So, TossarN, talk to me about fundamentals on D.Va. Let's start with the core. Start with the basics. What do we want to know when we sit down and we're picking D.Va? So why are we picking her? What do we plan to do when we're playing her?
You're picking D.Va because your team needs an off tank, basically. You can play D.Va with almost any main tank. The only main tank I would not recommend playing with D.Va is Orisa. So D.Va works very well with specifically Reinhardt and Winston. The fundamentals you need to know about D.Va, or her basic core mechanic, is that she have infinite ammo, and she's the only hero that specifically have infinite ammo. You can just keep shooting and shooting. That is basic, and you have 2 lives. That is basically the main parts about her. When you play D.Va, you need to you need to know when you can play frontline and when you need to peel. Peeling is when you fall back to protect your backline, and those are the main things. She's kind of what we call a bruiser. She moves in, she hits and runs. She can take you out immediately, or you can be destroyed immediately. And those are the main things. When can you play frontline? When can you flank? When do you need to peel? And usually, I can't really bring up a situation right now apart from maybe there's a tracer behind harassing your Zenyatta. Then you need to fly back and help that Zenyatta. Because D.Va has this ability called Defense Matrix. Basically, Defense Matrix is it eats almost anything apart from beam weapons. So you cannot eat Zarya, Symmetra, or Mei. Their primary fire, that is. So if you need to peel, you simply fly back Defense Matrix and try to get that bruiser away from your supports. and then you need to go back to your front line. So basically, you really need to utilize D.Va's mobility to move back and forth all the time,
It's a
depending on how the
very
situation changes.
it's a very dynamic hero in that sense, like you're saying. You're constantly moving back and forth, and with Diva, you have to change your mindset very quick, going from being very aggressive and, like you said, being a bruiser, going to pick up fights, challenge people. You're great at challenging hit scans, for example, or Hanzos that are alone by the flanks. And you can just quickly rush to them, kill them with missiles, and or at least make him back out and not be able to have that position over your team. But then just as quickly, you can fall back and protect your allies and instead become more of that babysitter, right? Where you're just protecting people from harm and from flanks, maybe from that Farah that's trying to get into your backline, etc. So it's not as intuitive at first when you play this hero. I feel like a lot of people might spend too much time in the front line trying to challenge the Zarya and the Reinhardt, while they might be better used somewhere else. But it definitely takes some time getting used to it. I found, at least learning Diva on my own.
Yeah.
So, TossarN, let's talk about. Actually, I'm gonna weave in a user question because I think that it fits right here, which is something that Zadka asked us, which is what are some of the main Diva playstyles? Because I feel like, and what I've seen within top level play and even just any level of play, is that Diva is one of the most dynamic heroes for choosing a particular style to play a specific hero. And there is a very large range with differences for how people favor certain abilities or certain styles of play with regards to this particular off tank.
Yeah. So basically, as I mentioned before, I see D.Va having at least 3 different playstyles, and that is frontline, flanker, or defensive. Um, basically, I can't say you can play D.Va as any other tank because D.Va is very different. She has a very huge hitbox and a crit box. Basically, you shoot at the glass of the mech and you will get a headshot. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so if caught in the wrong moment, a D.Va will lose her mech very quickly. So you need to really think about when you can make the engagements. Usually you only use your boosters as an escape or an engage. You usually don't have the time to use it as both. So you need to be very considerate when you wish to use your boosters. Uh, like let's say you fly in, you see an enemy Zenyatta in the back line, and you're in a position as you can dive him. Then that's when you have to make the choice. Do I want to rush this Zenyatta and take him down quickly, or should I fall back and play it safe? And this is usually where people stress out a little bit. They simply see the enemy and they rush in, and then they're caught off guard.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why D.Va, believe it or not, she needs a lot of awareness. Probably one of the heroes that needs the most awareness in the game, because you need to know exactly where everyone is at all times. Because if you don't, you might get ambushed very easily because she's a very big target. Um, so you really need to choose if you want to stay with your Reinhardt, if you want to make sure that your supports are protected, or if you want to flank around. And then, of course, she can also be played in a divey manner. If you play a Winston instead of a Reinhardt, of course. And then her goal is to always follow the Winston in and babysit the Winston. Usually, in the current meta, dive is basically kill their supports before they kill our supports. So you don't really have time to peel if you play dive.
Right. Okay, great. Let's keep moving here because we have a lot of things that we can talk about. But I want to take one more basic from fundamentals and kind of like highlighting the fundamental things here, which is with regards to what is the most common issues you see with players playing D.Va improperly or playing D.Va the wrong way. What is some of the things that you see as if this is being done? I see this with every D.Va player I coach.
Oh, very good question, actually. What is the thing most D.Va players disregard? I would say it's their hitbox, honestly.
Okay.
They don't seem to understand that they die very quickly.
You're gigantic and really easy to hit.
Exactly. They think that just because they're playing a tank and have 200 armor, they are, you know, oh man, what happened to my English there? They are unkillable for a moment. And as I mentioned, Diva's headshot box is huge. So that's a lot what I notice when people are trying to play frontline or as flankers. They simply dive into everyone and think they will get out alive. So
Yeah,
usually
the
what I have
armor's
to
only
tell
going to
them,
get you so far.
exactly.
I, I
Okay.
I want to add one more thing here too, and this one's kind of like my own opinion, but undervaluing defense matrix. Defense matrix is such an incredibly powerful ability, and it can mitigate as much damage as a Reinhardt shield can, and if not more than that. And you have to think about defense matrix as one of the most valuable resources that your team as a whole has. And every time you're flanking or every time you're getting aggressive on your own or using defense matrix just to defend yourself is an opportunity cost for your team. And you have to think about it as a team resource. And I see newer divas really not understand this and usually use defense matrix in situations where it's not very efficient or it's only used to protect themselves rather than using it to protect the team as a whole. That's kind of what I want to put out there.
Um, Defense matrix is you, as I mentioned earlier, like awareness with Diva, because awareness isn't only knowing where everyone is, it's knowing your HP, it's knowing your ability cooldowns, it's knowing basically everything that's going around
Right, where your
on your
teammates
screen.
are,
Exactly,
if
it's
they're getting
basically everything.
targeted.
So with defense matrix, you have to decide: do you wish to use the full defense matrix in one go to block something big, or do you want to be more conservative with it and simply bring it up for small bursts of damage? And here's the thing: do you use it to only defend your team, or do you use it in more aggressive manners as well? Like the defense matrix is such a big utility to have. I would say it's probably, as you mentioned, one of the most important defensive mechanics in the game. Because let's say a Pharah uses Barrage. You can use that defense matrix to approach that Pharah and use yourself as a wall so that the Pharah will kill herself. Then you can approach a soldier or any hit scan with the defense matrix and gain ground to be able to utilize your shotguns. You can use the defense matrix to protect your Winston as he dives in, and you can use it to protect your supports if they get flanked. So defense matrix is a very considerate awareness ability as well. Like, what is going on? Should I use it to approach the enemy? Should I use it to defend my main tank? Should I use it to defend my supports? Or should I use it to get away?
Absolutely.
There's one thing that I want to highlight with regards to what both of you guys were saying, which is that Diva has this weird capability of just being the one of the largest targets that people just love to shoot because she's so big. It's even not so much about her crit box, but just I want to highlight again, it's the hit box. She's just a massive target for, and that's not something that should be ignored when we're trying to teach how to play a hero as well as how to kill that hero in coaching sessions. Because of this size, it also means that you're also easier for people to hit who have less mechanical abilities. You're going to be just this large beacon of something that somebody can shoot, even if you're not supposed to be shot at that. I mean, you're not the priority target in the proper fight sequence. People are still just going to shoot you. So you can use that to your advantage.
One thing to keep in mind, though, is that a lot of the times Diva is the initial priority target. A lot of people will want to get Diva outside of her mech, at least, because just the mech, having Diva inside the mech itself, it's a huge deterrent, right? Like your soldier can't visor, McCree can't Deadeye. There's so many things that people can't do when Diva is inside of the mech. So a lot of the times, if the Diva's not playing it right and they have free shots on the mech, they will definitely take him on you. They will not waste that opportunity.
So we brought in defense matrix as like our main thing here. So let's kind of park there for a little bit longer. We have some things that you can do while you're doing defense matrix. Sometimes you can't always do this with other heroes, but during defense matrix, D.Va can actually operate other functions at the same time. So she can use micro missiles, or she can use her boosters at the same time as using the thing. So why don't you talk a little bit about weaving this together with other abilities, and also kind of what runs through your mind when you're trying to use them together?
Usually, I prefer to never use micro missiles when I use defense matrix. Usually, I think when you play as D.Va and you want to flank, you need to, like, if you decide to commit to something, you need to commit. There is no going back when you commit as D.Va. So basically, using the defense matrix too early will make you deal less damage, and using it too late will make you die. You need to find that kind of sweet spot. Like, D.Va has a guaranteed kill. It's a confirmed kill on 200 HP targets. It's when she rocket boosts, shoot at the same time, and use micro missiles at the same time. That is almost a kill confirmed on any mobile 200 HP target that is caught off guard. But if you bring up your defense matrix, you cannot utilize your main guns, and that's what I meant with if you decide to commit, you need to really commit.
You're using all of the offensive resources instead of mixing offense and defense. You're committing all of your attacks on one dive, more or less.
Exactly. And
yeah, there's like a combo. There's like a combo of damage with it, right? When you use your boosters, anyone you hit, you will deal 50 damage, and you will knock him back a little bit. So if you time everything right, if you're boosting towards a person and right before you get to them, you fire missiles, you shoot your guns, you're gonna hit them for a lot of damage. Like you were saying, you can one shot any 200 HP hero.
Exactly. What you basically, usually how the combo works is you run towards them, you activate boosters, you start shooting missiles, and you shoot your main guns. If you time it correctly, your boop or the rocket boosters will hit the target and finish them off in the end, or you can simply melee them down. And that's basically it. So, but if you bring up your defense matrix, you are going to lose out on your primary fire.
Yeah, you're gonna lose a big chunk of your damage. There are certain situations. What do you think about these that I found myself in? When you get a little bit cut off guard, somebody's close to you, you can use your defense matrix as they're unloading their clip on you, but at the same time you can use your missiles to put pressure on them, because I think one of the worst things you can do as D.Va is just stand in front of a target when you're about to get surrounded, just using your defense matrix without putting out any pressure, right?
Basically, those situations, we can talk on and on and on about this, because we can always bring up, what if the soldier had helix rocket? What if the D.Va had rocket boosters and just flew away?
Right.
But in a situation, if you're getting shot and let's say now from the side, you need to quickly be able to locate that target, know where he's shooting from, try to reposition back to your team, or simply back off around the corner using defense matrix. If you are the one getting shot first, I almost say that if D.Va is surprised, she will lose the fight 100% of the time. She will even lose against the Zenyatta shooting her from the side. To be honest, I would even say that in a complete fair 1v1, even Lucio wins against D.Va in her mech. And that is the main problem. As D.Va, you need to be very considerate about what fights you take and why you take those fights.
And then you're also trying to get into situations where you're trying to avoid the 1v1, or you're trying to initiate a 1v1 so that they take an unfavorable position to set your team up, right? You're trying to use this combination with other factors in the game to inform when you take those fights.
Exactly. As D.Va, you want to force people to play by your rules. You don't want to play by their rules. And basically, that is kind of what off tanks are for. I see a very good thing in the chat here from Carson Wuss here. Does the large hitbox distract enemy from higher priority targets? And that is completely true. Diva is a big, bright, usually pink target on the field. That
Usually
You can't, you can't ignore her.
Usually, and because of her hitbox being so large, even though she's not directly in front of a target, you might misfire and hit her instead. And that is why she also fills the role as an off tank. She easily forces you to focus her instead of other targets.
And with regards to defense matrix, let's kind of go the different route, right? So we have a little bit of highlighting of the offensive. So how do we shift gears if we're going to commit all offensively like we talked about for diving? How do we commit to a defensive push within utilizing Diva's kit? What does that look like, going all in on defense for her?
All in defense?
Right. So I'll use kind of a weird illustration, and maybe this is incorrect, but I want to just kind of pitch this to you and see what you think. There is something that exists within the dive meta because like you said earlier, you babysit a Winston.
Yep.
So by using a peeling or a removing of damage or a defensive style of push, you're committing to protecting a hero. You're all in by using the boosters to follow Winston and using the matrix to protect him when he gets there. And then you just go with him. You're dealing damage with stuff he's hitting. You're following him around. You're waiting until he's ready to leave, and then you leave together. It's just like this buddy system, right?
Exactly. Now the thing is here, you only use your matrix until the Winston lands, because when the Winston lands, he uses his bubble, and that's when you once again need to commit to your damage. Usually when you play dive, you will have at least 3 or 2 more heroes coming in to assist you. And basically the fundamentals of this: bring down your dive and priority target as fast as possible to cause distraction in the enemy ranks. So as fast as the Winston bubble can be deployed safely for you guys, you bring down your defense matrix and you deal damage instead.
So you shift gears at the same time that the Winston does the bubble. It's like you have a light switch for when to turn your defense off so that Winston's is on, and then you can go offense.
Exactly.
And that's a great point that gets often overlooked. You don't want to stack the Winston shield and your defense matrix, because at that point it's kind of like when both supports like use their ultimate at the same time. It's kind of overkill. You're gonna take out a lot of damage, but then once the barrier is gone, you're gonna have no defense matrix. And you guys gonna be cut up in an awkward situation there.
Exactly. Because what's the point? Like, imagine you're behind a Reinhardt who's holding up a shield, and you bring out your defense matrix. It's basically the same point with the Winston bubble. Because with the Winston bubble, you can shield them while you harass the target. They can't shoot you, but you can still shoot them whatever you do. And that's the point here. If the bubble goes down prematurely, you might want to bring up your defense matrix to tank some of the damage. But usually, if you don't kill your dive target in the first few seconds of the initial dive, it's better to simply reset.
Right. So, Tossar, can you talk a little bit more about playing with other tanks? That's something we've touched on quite a bit here. We've talked a lot about Winston. We've talked a little bit about playing with Reinhardt. But how do you maintain playing with the others? We have Wrecking Ball or Hammond. We have Zarya. We also have the Reinhardts. And I think that... And Orissa's. Orissa's is also the last tank in the bunch so far.
I still really haven't figured out if I want to call Hammond an off tank or a main tank, to be honest.
Right. We're still figuring that out as a community, I think, at large.
But I'm gonna go into Orisa first. Usually you pick Orisa when you want to play in chokeholds, and Diva isn't really a hero simply to play in chokeholds. So I would never say that if your team wants to play a 2-2-2 defensive composition, Diva is not the hero to pick. You can of course make some weird composition, but I highly recommend against it. Playing in goats or triple tank, normal triple tank with other heroes like Zarya, basically you can no longer fill as big of a tank role. You're basically just there to be part of a death ball, basically. Um, so when it comes to playing with a different tank, like of course you still need to think about your defense matrix the same way you think about the defense matrix. Like you need to have a simple mindset for defense matrix. Like it's a very simple thing when you actually get into it. You can't never overthink it. The more you play, the faster you are going to be able to calculate when can I use it, when can I not use it.
Just get a feel for it.
Exactly. The thing here when you're playing goats or you are the sorry.
So
No
3
worries.
tanks, more or less, folks.
Exactly. Uh, when playing, let's say you're playing Diva in a goats composition, you are the only person that can actually counter, let's say, a Pharah or any hero that plays on the high ground away from your goats.
Mm-hmm.
And this leaves you a very vulnerable target. So here you really need to communicate with your team what you need to do. Like maybe you can ask for Zarya to bubble you before you go in. You can ask Brigitte to throw armor on you, etc. But usually you are a very endangered species when you play Diva and goats.
Okay.
You are the only one to actually utilize long range weapons, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
so it is very situational to what you want to do and when you want to do it. Do you simply stick with the death ball, or do you contest that Ana harassing your team on the high ground? And then there's a problem. If you decide to go up there and you get caught off guard, there's nothing really you can do, and the goats fall apart. So you need to be very inconsiderate, and communication wins games, basically. That's basically what I can say. There isn't really much more to it.
Yeah, yeah. What about when you're playing with your Reinhardt? Because there's a different dynamic there when you're playing like with just a Reinhardt. Usually you might be going against something like a Reinhardt Zarya, for example, which Zarya is like public enemy number one of Diva, right? You don't want to be around a Zarya for too long as Diva. So how do you play in those situations? Because like you said, Reinhardt and Diva can work together and they actually have some cool interactions. But how do you approach that pairing?
Just also, I forgot to throw in Roadhog earlier to considerations. He's kind of like the forgotten tank brother of off tanks right now,
He
with regards
deserves
to
it
the meta.
because he's an EXP pinata. You don't play Roadhog. The only time I want to see a Roadhog is with Roadhog or Risa, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because
The yoinks.
currently, yoinks. Currently, Roadhog doesn't really fit into anything else.
Mm.
But Reinhardt Diva is fairly straightforward. Basically, you are in control of the front line most of the time. But when playing Reinhardt Diva, you pick Diva simply because she has those peeling capabilities that Zarya doesn't. Zarya can bubble one target, which can be popped fairly easily, whilst Diva can act as this big massive shield while pushing you around, which makes Diva the ultimate support peeler.
Sure.
And that is usually why if you want to pick, like, let's say the enemy has a really good Tracer player. Maybe Zarya won't be the perfect choice. Maybe we should go Diva instead, simply so that she can save our Zenyatta if Zenyatta is getting his ass handed to him.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So it is a very situational pick, Zarya or Diva. Like, you need to consider why would we want a Diva instead of a Zarya? They have a Zarya that will just feed off our Diva. But here's the thing about Diva, like, Zarya melts Diva when Zarya is at high energy, and Diva can't do anything to protect herself from Zarya. But Diva also melts tanks just as easily as Reaper melts tanks. Because Diva's weapons, believe it or not, they are shotguns, basically. The
Mm-hmm.
closer you are, the much more damage they deal. And they have, I think she shoots around 11 pellets per shot,
That's correct.
which I think she has 400 rounds per minute, basically. Like in 1 minute, she can pump up 400 bullets.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
ton.
She does like 6-ish a second, to give you an idea.
Exactly. And this is, I think it is 200 per gun, so it's not 400 per gun, it's 200 per gun. But imagine if a D.Va is standing right next to a TossarN just pumping these bullets into Zarya's head. The Zarya is gonna melt. And that's when we come into even more situational awareness with D.Va.
Right.
When can I move in for the kill? When can I not? When do I need to protect? And when can I commit? And if I'm gonna be super straightforward here, basically everything I can say about D.Va is I will always bring awareness in, because that is basically how the hero works. She's one of the most situational awareness craving heroes in the game.
Absolutely. And a big part of that awareness comes down to where you position yourself. I've noticed that really good divas almost seem invincible. Like you can't never take him out of their mech. They're just flying around, zooming everywhere. If you manage to take him out of their mech, they have their ultimate, so they regain it right back, and they're back at it in no time. Well, I've seen people who are just starting to learn Diva, they're very easy to take out of the mech. They spend a lot of time, maybe as baby Diva, just shooting you from the side, trying to regain it, or they're not using their defense matrix appropriately because they're not positioned in the right places. Can you speak a little bit to that, to positioning to survive?
Basically, D.Va is very good at contesting high grounds. If you know where you have your support so that you can always get the healing that you need, D.Va is one of the best heroes to hold high grounds with. Like, let's say you're attacking the first point on Horizon Lunar Colony. You can basically always leave your team to contest the high ground as D.Va, because your team will always have a pretty decent view of where you are. So if, let's say, you play with a Zenyatta can just put his orb on you. And this works for any map. Like, D.Va is a very good hero on King's Row. She's a very good hero on Numbani, Horizon Lunar Colony, Volskaya. You get the point.
Mm-hmm.
She's viable on almost every map. The only time I dislike having a D.Va on my team is Junkertown, because there are too many ambush locations. But yeah, so when it comes to positioning on D.Va, you need to once again consider, do they need me in the front line, or can I go around and flank, or do they need me in the back line, basically.
So, would you consider D.Va to be one of the characters that you need to be watching just as much your own teammates as the enemy team? Because when I talk with players or when I play D.Va, I feel like I'm like observing 11 players way more than I would on some supports. Because even on supports, you're like, okay, they have to be around me when I'm playing Lucio, or I'm Glass Cannon and I'm kind of playing more like DPS on Zenyatta, but kind of sort of supporting. And Ana's kind of like that, and Mercy's kind of like that. But you know, they have like different things. I feel like D.Va has like 6,000 buttons to press and everyone to watch. And you're like, what am I supposed to do here? Like you were saying with regards to, man, I've gotta maintain game sense is like the one thing that just keeps yelling in my head. I have to know what's going on at all times.
Yeah. Your best friend in Overwatch are the sound cues. Because basically the sound cues tells you exactly where those people are and when they're doing something. So basically you don't need to see them. If you listen and you have those good headphones, or basically any sound at all, you will hear exactly where, let's say that McCree is high nooning. You will hear exactly when the tracer's blinking and where she's blinking to, for example. So even if you
Sure.
don't see your enemies, you will know where they are, and from that you can adapt and play. Yeah.
I think that's a lot. That's pretty much most of it. But without getting into specific questions from the community, the last thing we need to talk about is the two sides of the same coin, which is overvaluing self-destruct and undervaluing self-destruct. The most common things with this one ability that I've seen, and I think that that's just the only talking point we need right now before we move into the ability itself.
The self-destruct.
Yeah.
Usually the self-destruct is also, once again, I'm sorry for bringing this up so often, but a very situational ability.
It's
Do you
very,
want to
yeah.
use it? Do you want to use it to get back into your mech more quicker, or do you want to use it to initiate a fight? And yeah, basically you need to always overthink. Like, is this a fight? Should I save it for the initial dive and see if I die fast or not? Or should I just shoot it in and allow my team to dive with the bomb instead of me?
As well as a zoning
That's
tool for overtime situations.
exactly. It's a very good zoning tool. And of course, once again, communication. I'm gonna use my bomb. Lucio, can you boop up the Reinhardt, for example?
Right.
Things
Or
like
Sombra, can you hack the Reinhardt, or can you hack
Exactly.
something, right? So with regards to self-destruct, let's talk about utilizing some of the tips and tricks. This ability has a lot of really, really cool things you can do with it. So why don't you
It
talk a
does.
little bit about that and how the interactions are with this ability?
Just as her rocket boosters work, if you fly into a wall, you're gonna glide with that wall. So let's take King's Row, for example. A little bit after the first point, you have this massive wall encroaching the narrow path which the payload travels. And this works for any wall in the game. If you aim your rocket boosters towards a specific area of that wall, or any area basically, when you throw your self-destructing mech will glide next to that wall and follow the enemies as they run away from it. So that is a very good way to use the D.Va mech if you want to use it offensively. Basically, be sneaky, throw it against a wall, and that D.Va mech will chase your enemies like a hungry beast. Another way is, of course, to use it if you die too fast. If you find yourself in a situation where you're going out quickly, you can use the self-destruct to get away and remake when it goes off. Usually this does not grant you a single kill, but it will allow you to play with your mech. Because you might have seen that if, let's say your team wins a fight and the D.Va is a baby D.Va, you can usually see that baby D.Va jump off the edge of the map sometimes, just to get her mech back. Because the mech is such a big core mechanic of D.Va.
It's so valuable.
Exactly. Because when you're baby D.Va, you have the HP of a tracer, you have less damage, and
No
if you
mobility.
get
And no matrix.
Exactly. I actually want to talk against the no mobility. Have you ever tried
Yeah.
hitting a baby D.Va crouching, jumping around like a
Oh yeah, it could be a nightmare sometimes.
Mobility abilities. We'll stick with the core definitions of mobility before we get into the ridiculous hitbox that is the baby D.Va. That thing sucks to hit with Hanzo, and I've been playing a lot of Hanzo this last week, and it's baby divas, dude. Tell you what, just go melee them 20,000 times, and then they'll die.
Exactly. She has less DPS than a Mercy pistol, basically. So you have no abilities. You only have your ultimate and your gun. You either wanna take your own life and get that mech back as fast as possible, or if you have the possibilities, shoot a high target that won't be focusing you to get your mech back as fast as possible. Because out of mech, she recharges mech very quickly. And that is why a lot of people like D.Va, because it feels like you can get so many chances before you die.
Yeah, it's almost like having a second life. When your mech is down, you have a second chance at coming back.
Exactly. But back to the self-destruct. So yeah, you can use it there, but you also need to be a little bit careful when you wish to recall your mech, because they can shoot that mech as you climb into it, and that mech can end up exploding before you even get to use a single ability or shot.
Yeah, you're very vulnerable.
Yeah, you have a full
time.
2 seconds. Full 2
Exactly.
seconds.
Not only that, but when you're calling your mech, there's like a small window where you're just standing completely still. And I'm a hit scan player, so I know that I'll be looking for that moment when I'm playing Widow, McCree, or Ash. Just wait for the last second when the mech comes down and just shoot her in the head. One shot kill, you're done with it. So you gotta really
Right.
watch out when you're pulling out that mech. You can't be very vulnerable, or make sure nobody's aiming at you at that time. Or I mean, they can be aiming at you, but just make sure keep that in mind. You're vulnerable.
Usually, you want to position yourself so that you look them straight in the face, because that will put your mech in
front of them, right?
between them.
Yeah.
So even though your mech takes a lot of damage, it will protect you and actually allow you to get into it. Because I
Yeah,
see a
it's a
lot of divas
shield.
simply call it down immediately, not caring about where they are, and I'm standing behind them, shooting them in the head as they do. So that's something you have to think about. You can survive a few seconds extra without your mech and simply reposition yourself. Then the self-destruct, as I mentioned, you can slide it against walls. That is a very great mechanic. You can use it to stall a point. You can use it to get your mech back. You can also use it to initiate fights. Or you can be sneaky. You can tell your team, hey, I'm gonna flank around. And then you flank around, and then your team goes in, causing some ruckus. Then you stand behind this house, and you shoot your mech in from behind the house, coming in behind the enemies, blowing up in their backs. So there are many ways you can utilize the Diva explosions.
I think, yeah, like you're saying, when you're using it offensively, when you're using the bomb to try to get kills, the sneakier that you can be, the better with the bomb. Because if you're very obvious with it, it's very easy to see for the enemy team. One is this like flying, shining ball that's about to explode. It makes an incredibly loud sound. You can hear that thing from miles away. And it's like glowing red with like this exclamation point. So like there's no missing that thing if you're very obvious with it. And it's very easy to avoid once you can see where it's coming from. You can hide almost behind any post, card, payload, wall, door, shield that your team has. A lot of heroes have abilities that they can just save for the last minute to neglect it, right? Like Zarya shield or Reinhardt shield. Even Roadhog can just use his take a breather to mitigate most of the damage and still outlive the bomb. So the sneakier you can be with it, the better. And I really like the glide against the wall thing. I think that I saw that in Overwatch League. I think it was Poco who would use that a lot of the time. It's a very cool trick, like you were saying. If you just aim the mech like diagonal on a wall, you use your boosters and you activate your ultimate. The mech just slides off the wall until it reaches the end, and when it reaches the end, it goes back at full speed. So it's almost like the Junkrat rip tire trick, where you just like smash it against the wall to kind of muffle the sound for a bit, or hide the tire for a little bit and then come out and surprise them. It's kind of like that same principle. You're using the wall to slow down the momentum for a little bit and confuse them, like where's this thing coming from, kind of thing.
Exactly. And another thing to consider, your mech cannot stand on any surface that you can't. So let's say you want to shoot it against a rooftop, it will glide off that rooftop. So there are many positions where you can aim your Diva mech just as a surprise mechanic. And nobody will expect the Diva mech to come tumbling down the roofs on Eichenwald, for example.
Yeah, exactly. There's also some good spots to be dropping it with regards to using 360 degrees, not just thinking of like fronts and backs and flanks, but looking up in the sky because of the hitboxes. Sometimes it'll catch people off guard by having the difference of running it into a building, running it into the ground, like a high ground, and then it's slowly going. And then all at once, when it clears the thing that it's running into slowly, the Diva mech will shoot off at full speed, like we've been saying this whole time, and it'll jump and catch them really far off guard. And I've seen people use this into the ground just to like get it to go slowly off high ground. I've seen people run it into a wall. It looks almost like flat, and then it kind of just at the last second, or the last like 0.5 seconds, it just fires in there. So there's all kinds of stuff there. There's also just the classic Diva Bomb going from low ground, shooting it up in the straight in the sky, and it goes right above somebody's hitbox. Reinhardt gets sleep darted because he has to block the Diva mech and gets blown up. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do with this ability. To close out the show, though, we do need to get into a couple of our user questions. So I'm going to pick one more, and then Andres, you can pick one. And then if there's any of these other ones, TossarN, that you think are really, really solid questions on top of those, we can go from there.
All right.
So the first one here that I'm going to choose is the one that I have from Shazir. So this one talks about the term feathering with regards to defense matrix. It has what he says is it seems to have a minimum use percentage point on the meter and the duration that you have available to you. How do you balance kind of feathering versus just dumping the entire matrix? When do I know when to just click it and tap it versus, going all in on my matrix?
I think we touched on this earlier, actually, when I said, like, there are certain times when you wanna, very good question, by the way. There are certain times when you want to, move in to use it as an offensive tool to when you want to use it as a defensive tool. Like, let's say a Pharah uses her ultimates, you want to hold that defense matrix down. And while you hold it down, you can fly up to that Pharah and make the Pharah kill herself with her own barrage. Um, but let's say now you are noticing a certain change of playstyle in the enemy Zarya. This usually means that maybe the Zarya has her graviton surge. Keep an eye on that Zarya very hard. Don't use your defense matrix too often. Don't give away what you're trying to do. Never use it prematurely. When using her defense matrix in a click style base, you use it to mitigate small amount of damage that isn't that dangerous, but it will still help your team to mitigate that damage to prevent some ult charge for your enemies. So basically, depending on situations, like if you retreat, if you're in a full retreat, hold up your defense matrix as you back away. If you're not in a full retreat, be more careful with it. Use it more for certain situations. Look in the change of play, and this goes for any hero that you play. When it comes to ultimate tracking, look in certain changes of playstyles that you haven't noticed that maybe your enemies have been playing before. Like, let's say your Zarya is super aggressive now. Okay, Zarya might be trying something here, and then you hear that Russian voice line, and then you can click your defense matrix immediately. Lightning fingers. But I would never recommend the click in, letting go, click in, letting go. Never do that.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. When you're feathering, like Shazir says, you're reacting to things. You're never just blindly, just activating and putting away, because there's a delay between when you put your defense matrix away and when you can bring it up again. And if you're going up against decent players, they're gonna be looking for those opportunities. They're gonna be looking out for when your defense matrix goes down, and they know they have a window of opportunity. An easy way to test this is sometimes good Rhines will do this. They'll do a fake out where they lower their shield, wait for the Diva to put up the defense matrix, because the Diva thinks that he's going to use his shockwave, or what do we call it, Rob?
Oh, Fire Strike.
The Fire Strike, yeah. So instead of using the Fire Strike, the Reinhardt just lowers his shield, waits for the defense matrix to come back up. Once Diva sees that there's no Fire Strike coming, she lowers the defense matrix. Then the Fire Strike comes. So you can be faked out very easily like this. So you want to be very reactive. You don't want to pull up that matrix until you see the yellow line coming out of the Reinhardt, for example. Or like you said, looking for that Zarya. If Zarya knows that you're waiting for her to graviton to defense matrix, she's gonna hold on to it until she sees you lower the matrix. Then that's her window of opportunity. So you gotta be very mindful of when you're just tapping the matrix.
Exactly. You can also play mind games with your enemies. like suddenly you can change the way you use your matrix. Let's say you play against a Moira. When you see a Moira orb coming, you simply bring up your matrix, take that Moira orb away, then bring it down. Then suddenly, the next time you take out a Moira orb, you suddenly hold on to that matrix and aim it towards the enemy. And maybe they will waste something on your matrix just because, oh, D.Va suddenly held it up longer. She hasn't done that before. So
just making the mix-ups happen.
Exactly. You constantly need to adapt and change your playstyle depending on situations. And by playing mind games with your enemies, they are gonna be more cautious towards you. They're never gonna know for certain. You're gonna be unpredictable, basically.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and bring up this other question from Paradroid that is related to Defense Matrix as well. He says, my damage blocked has always been lower than the average according to popular stat sites. Was a good damage block per 10 minutes to shoot for? Is this stat even worth tracking as it appears to be very situational? I will say if your damage blocked seems a little lower than other people around your rank, you might want to look into when you're using defense matrix and what you're using it for. Because if they're just like shooting at you regularly, and like we said, maybe your Reinhardt shield is close to you, you don't even have to matrix at that time. You're just kind of AFKing matrix. You're just pulling it up when you see damage come to you. You might not be using it at the best times. You really want to use it to mitigate very significant damage. We were just using the example of the fire strike before. Eating one fire strike is gonna count a lot towards your damage eaten, rather than if you're just, eating other D.Va bullets, for example, that are being shot at you. So I think choosing it wisely and choosing the abilities that you're matrixing out and being on the lookout for those abilities can really increase the damage block that you can do. You can eat almost every fire strike that Reinhardt throws at you if you're looking out for them, for example. Do you want to add anything here?
Basically, what you touched on in the end, it depends on what kind of damage he blocks. Basically, you can eat a lot of damage in an entire match, but what kind of damage do you block? Like, do you block important damage, or do you just continuously block minor damage,
like spam damage?
An entire game? Exactly. So I would say don't pay too much attention to your damage blocked. Think about what you yourself block instead. Do you know? Maybe did you block a lot of fire strikes? Did you block a Hanzo dragon, for example?
Hanzo's dragon is like a huge, like it'll count for what, like at least like 1,000 damage blocked, I would say.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing that's really deceptive about some of the stat sites that you have to be aware of. Like what you were touching on, TossarN, you have to be careful because sometimes the damage is just going to be trash. So even if you have a super high number in this particular stat at your rank, it may not even be indicative of good D.Va play at all. Even having a low one could be reflective of the same thing. It could be two different pulls on the same problem. You're just overvaluing the ability on bad things, or you're undervaluing it on good things. So you have to think about it in both of these ways. And then the other thing too is that D.Va's damage that she eats in a couple of different ways can also look different. For example, we'll use Fire Strike again because we've been touching on it a lot. Fire Strike represents one set of damage. It does, like 70 damage. Let's just say it does 70. I don't actually know what it is off the top of my head right now, but let's say it does 70, 75 some damage, something like that. If that fire strike hits 2 targets, it now doubles in damage. And if it hits a third target, it triples in damage. So when you eat it, the statistic websites are only going to tell you ate one instance of it. Versus if your team is all lined up in a row and he's fire striking your Reinhardt and you're trying to peel for the whole team who's clustered up in a choke, you eating that damage actually represents 5 times the amount of damage that you just ate and forwent. In the same situation would be other heroes and other things. But if you're looking to see what is stuff that is important, think about what is the highest damage sources that enemies and allies would like to do on that hero. If I'm playing Soldier, I want to eat a Helix Rocket because that thing does a lot of damage. If the enemy is running a Hanzo, I want to be eating his Storm Arrows every time he's got it. because that's a lot of shots really, really quickly, whether it's into an ally, into nothing, or into a barrier. It's still a lot of damage that you can be eating. So just keep all of these things in mind as you look through that sort of thing.
Yeah, and look, and like
on
trying
this-
to predict the damage too. Like there's tells where you know damage is going to coming in. I know I keep bringing up the Reinhardt example, but if you're playing with a Reinhardt, the moment he's going to fire strike, you know that there's going to be damage coming in towards him. The enemy team is gonna use that opportunity to try to squeeze in damage. So you, as Diva, you knowingly knowing this, you can just knowingly knowing this, you can just aim your matrix at him every time he fire strikes, guaranteeing you're gonna block significant damage, right? That your Reinhardt is otherwise just gonna take.
Yeah. Now, there's one thing that seemed a little bit more about something that the user wanted us to talk about that I wanted to highlight. And this is again from Zadka asking about what's called boop or knockback resistance when you are utilizing your rocket boosters. And I'll if you're kind of like not really understanding what this means, I'll explain it a little bit and then I'll turn it back over to TossarN. Basically, if you're using your boosters on Diva, and let's say Lucio's around you on the enemy Lucio, and he wants to use his knockback, his shotgun boop ability, or anything, even any other boop ability that you have, including Pharah has her concussive blast. If these things hit you while you are using your rocket boosters, you have what's called some kind of resistance because your ability in itself is a boop as well. So she's probably talking about this more of like a discussion point. So TossarN, do you want to speak about anything to use this or kind of abuse this a little bit more, or just being aware of it is just a good thing?
Just like Lucio, the boop resistance depends on what angle you are hitting from and from what area you are hitting from. If you're hitting someone running towards you, they are gonna continue moving forward in the air as well. And it's basically the same as Diva. Diva's knockback is a little bit weaker than Lucio's.
Mm-hmm.
And way weaker than Pharah's. Pharah's is extremely strong.
Right.
But yeah, with just as with Lucio, Diva's knockback is considered on from what angle you hit the enemy and from what position that enemy is running towards. Is he running towards you? Is he running away from you? Is he running sidewards? And
Sure.
so there is no real way to determine an actual knockback resistance, depending on the weight of the characters. Like Roadhog is a heavyweight, so to say. He doesn't get knockback as far.
Let me kind of revert the question a little bit, because I think that what Zadka's bringing up is how Diva, during using the booster's ability, while she's using that, is resistant to being knocked back.
Yeah, I think she gains some sort of super armor.
super knockback armor.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you brought up super armor, because this is actually something that is interchangeable terminology within lots of other fighter games in particular. And I know that I've been consuming a ton of Smash content, and in the pre-show we were talking a little bit about that with TossarN. But super armor in games like that mean that you can be taking damage or be taking boops or taking something, and super armor doesn't mean that you're immune to the damage. It just means that you're immune to the effects of them. Some kind of like knockbacks or stuns or what they call flinch in fighting games. Those things, you just don't have them because you have a super armor. And so Diva has this when you use your rocket boosters. So if you are worried about going into an area and you're going to be booped off, you can have a little bit of safety when you're using the ability, and then you can feel vulnerable afterwards. So if you're playing against Diva, keep this in mind. Don't try to use your knockback abilities on Ashe if you're getting dove, or your knockback on who is it? Lucio if you're getting dove. Use it after she stops her momentum, and then use it, because then that's when they're the most vulnerable.
Exactly.
It's a good one to keep in mind too. I like overtime comes into mind when you're trying to trigger overtime as Diva. Maybe you're the last person that can get to the point. Knowing that you can get booped off by that Lucio when you're using your rocket boost, might inform you like, hey, let me save him till I get close to that Lucio, and then I can guarantee I can get to the point. So just knowing that fact might save your ass one day.
Exactly.
TossarN, anything to add here? I know that we had one resource that you said you would really like to put in here. It's the big collaboration resource for people out there that want to look more into Diva play.
Yes, and let's be frank. The name speaks for itself. It's the only Diva guide that you'll ever need, basically. Let's see. I did put it under extra resources. I'm not sure if I should put it anywhere else.
Right. I just wanted to see if you wanted to talk a little bit about it here. Anything here of note?
Basically, this guide basically goes through all the things you need to know about Diva from many different high-tier Diva players. A lot of good players overall have added to this, and it basically breaks down Diva bit for bit. I'm not sure. I've briefly checked through it. Some parts I've read a lot, but it tells you what heroes, like what kind of heroes you need to watch out for, what kind of heroes you're good against. It breaks down your damage and basically everything of those. So if you ever have your time, they also have a YouTube video if you don't prefer to read, so that you can listen to what I say instead. And
it's 25 pages in Google Docs, so be that you're in it for the long haul if you want to go pick this apart.
Listen, if you're serious about Diva, this is what you need to be getting to.
It is inextricably bound to the term exhaustive. So this is about as much as info as you can dump into 25 pages.
Exactly. But yeah, it's a very good guide. It's the only guide I would say you ever need to look at if Diva. There's a lot of Diva guides out there, but from what I've noticed, this is the one I would trust, basically.
Sure. All right, TossarN, is there any other last things about the Diva that you're just like, I totally forgot about this, or just if you want to reiterate the fundamentals one more time, that's also fine. Before we kind of close out the show and go through some special thanks here.
I look here at the question from Frill.
Okay.
With Diva, I often feel like I have a ton of sustain and dexterity, but sometimes I feel like I lose health quicker than on other heroes. What can I do while assisting a dive or in terms of positioning to prevent getting bursted down? That is a very superior question, I'm gonna be honest. As I mentioned before, you need to, when it comes to positioning, you need to beforehand have a game plan. Should I be playing frontline? Should I be playing peeler? Or should I be playing flanker? And basically, even though you're an off tank, you want to hide behind your main tank. Like when Winston dives in, you want to be behind Winston with your defense matrix until Winston bubble comes down. And then you want to dance with that bubble. So basically, you do everything you can to mitigate damage while still dealing damage yourself. But as I mentioned, Diva has probably the biggest headshot hitbox in the entire freaking game. And that means that you are going to get critted out into the cosmos if you allow them to shoot at you.
You are in the spacesuit, so
exactly. Be careful when positioning. Look around you. Know where you have everything. Know your HP. Know your ability cooldowns. Know when you want to dive in. Do you want to save your rocket boosters to escape? Do you want to use them to engage? There is only do and do not on Diva. Do I commit or do I not commit? So think about that. Also, Diva, as any other heroes, use the walls, use the map to your advantage.
Great way to wrap up, I'd say. So let's do some special thanks. We have first up are any and all of our people on twitch.tv/OmnicLab who are our current subs and people that are using their Twitch Prime subs to help us out. We are affiliates, so we can utilize some of those subs if you guys have them with Twitch Prime. And special shout out to Shazir, who gave us 100 bits live on the stream this week. We also have some diamond sponsors out there on Patreon. So Patreon is basically a tipping service website that you can tip us at a certain rate. Every time we create something, we get it'll charge you, and then at the end of the month, it will actually go through the billing. And that's kind of how it works. If you want to help us out there, we have some people at the very top level that are supporting us. Top Score Solutions, of course, is our sponsor that we mentioned at the top, alongside of Silver Loki, Solo PS4, Jan Jinkle, Durandal, Roger B, Britmus, Shazir, Krista Player, Tragic Zach Lissum, and new on the block, Matthew Z. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. If you want to join the crew and the lab rats, as some people have kind of like grabbed on their own, you can say that. We call you guys scientists. We're a little bit more polite on our end, but we really appreciate any and all support so we can do things like camera upgrades or getting some new interfaces and mic equipment for being on the go or in the studio. We really, really, really appreciate it. We had some big shuffles this last year, and we're happy to still keep the show rolling. In 2019, we're gonna hopefully hit it off with a good stride. Actually, a week early, having TossarN here with us this week, so we're really excited to revisit a good old hero with Diva. And I think that's going to do it for pretty much anything. You want to find that, it's patreon.com/OmnicLab. If you want to find anything Omnic Lab, it's all at the website, omniclab.com/links. We got Discord, we got Twitter, we got Facebook, we got Twitch and YouTube, and even merch. If you guys want to get t-shirts, this little mug behind me on the live stream, you can get one of those, all at the website there. That's going to do it for us. Just a reminder, don't forget about game night. It's tonight. Show up. You can kill me a lot. I'm not very good. You can also kill Andres. He's also not very good. I kill him more than he kills me most of the time. Just kidding.
That's what he says in the show. Let's wait till game night.
Hey, I got to throw shade when I can. So if you guys want to find our guest, TossarN, the floor is yours. Please promote anything and everything that is yours, where people can find you, get some more coaching on your Fiverr account, all that stuff.
Okay, so some sellout. Basically, what I can say, I left a few links in the overall description. So if you want, you can be free to check all of those out. That's about it. I don't like being a sellout. Sorry. No, just kidding.
Yeah, you can just find all the info is always in the description, and we tweeted out the links. You can check it out on our Twitter. We'll be featuring him in the major tweets as well.
Absolutely, definitely check out this guy. He has a passion for teaching and the right attitude too. We are glad that we were able to get him in here. We first heard of him through the Jane video, where Jane actually surprised him and basically did like a secret shopper kind of thing. He just acted he acted as a noob, and he was like, hey, I need some coaching. And TossarN was very good. He did a fantastic job, to the point where Jane congratulated him at the end. It was very cool.
Awesome stuff. If you want to find Andres, where can the lovely people at home find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And Happy New Year to everybody out there. I wish you the best for the new year. I hope all of your New Year's resolutions come to fruition. Everybody is going to reach top 500 this year. It's going to be the year.
I don't know the phrase after New Year's yet, but I will tell you the one that I know for before New Year's in Japanese is called Yo-Yo Tashio, or Yo-Yo Tashio. And that just means Happy New Year before it happens. And then there's another one that's you say after New Year when you see your friends and your coworkers. And I'll probably try to learn that before I try to teach it to you guys. I'll try to learn it. But if you guys want to find me, I'm at the tag Not Rob pretty much everywhere except for Twitch. It's Not Rob May. If you like Hearthstone, you can check out Velen's Chosen podcast. We're going to do lore this week. My co-host and I are taking the week off for the holidays. And if you like Dungeons and Dragons, there is a really long 3-hour one-shot podcast with regards to Christmas and Krampus crashing the party that I did with some friends, and that is on conceptcraft.libsyn.com if you want to go check that out. My wife is also joining us on that, and I played a really, really funny old guy, so you can enjoy that. And remember, guys, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We will see you next week and in the new year on episode 133. See you guys.
Thanks for everyone in the chat. All your questions were appreciated. Chaz, TJ the Goat, Wanted Winston. Yeah, all you guys. Awesome. Those are good suggestions too, by the way. I know we didn't quite address on the show, but we'd love to get those guests on the show as well.
I have nothing more to teach you.
If you're on YouTube, you can put some suggestions for future guests down below as well. We're always looking.
Walk in harmony, my student.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Happy New Year's Eve. A little bit early, but yeah.
Yeah, a little bit early. They'll be hearing it when it's close to New Year's.